Also, speaking of people being unhinged, more JD Vance audio has resurfaced. New Vance audio in an interview from 2020. JD Vance agrees with a podcast host who says having grandmothers help raise children is the whole purpose of the post-menopausal female.
And you can sort of see the effect it has on him to be around them. Like, they spoil him. There's sort of all the classic stuff that grandparents do to grandchildren. But it makes him a much better human being to have exposure to his grandparents.
Well, I don't know.
And the evidence on this, by the way, is like super clear.
That's the whole purpose of the postmenopausal female in theory. Did your in-laws, and particularly your mother...
Too much internet, man. Too much internet. Too much fucking internet. That's it. You're doing it. You're doing too much internet. He did it. He went on these fucking random loser podcasts and he talked about postmenopausal females. How the fuck did the Trump camp not look at this immediately after Donald Trump Jr. was the one who said we should have JD Vance? That's the first thing I would have done. Oh, my fucking loser son who's really invested in memes is telling me that this is a good pick. Let me go search like any podcast appearances that he's made, because I know he's made podcast appearances because my dumbass son loves making podcast appearances because he's a fucking loser. And so is JD Vance, the exact same kind of fucking loser.
In-law show up in some huge way.
She lived with us for a year.
Right.
So, you know.
So I didn't know the answer to that.
Right. No,
because that's...
Like, he can't talk about something so normal. He has personal experiences with being raised by his grandparents. This is something that we know about his background. He could just be normal about it and be like, I was very fortunate that my grandmother and my grandfather was in my life. I loved coming from a large family like that. You know, I saw the benefits of that. No, he has to fucking say like, postmenopausal females have a natural predisposition to take care of the children of the family. It's like, dude, you're so fucking weird. Why? Like, it blows my mind that he mathematically figures out the grossest way to talk about shit in a way that like is both parts nerdy and part like dehumanizing of like normal people, that like nobody in Ohio that hears this is going to go, yeah, that's my guy.
So that's this weird unadvertised feature of marrying an Indian woman.
So it's in some ways the most transgressive thing I've...
What?
Huge way. She lived with her in-law. Did your in-laws, and particularly your mother-in-law, show up in some huge way?
She lived with us for a year.
Right.
So, you know.
So I didn't know the answer to that.
Right. No.
Because that's this weird unadvertised feature of marrying an Indian woman.
So it's in some...
Bro, these dudes need lobotomies to be normal. I swear to God. The words that you're using could not be grosser. I don't know. They just can't help themselves. I think it's just like a charisma problem. You know what I mean? It's just a charisma problem. He could just be like, bro, I married into an Indian family. They really love family values, okay? My mother-in-law is like very invested in my life. But no, he has to do it with Eric Weinstein, who just has to be a weird fucking racist loser about it. You know what I mean?
In some ways, the most transgressive thing I've ever done against sort of the hyper neoliberal approach to work and family. My wife had this baby 7 weeks before she started the clerkship. He was still not sleeping any more than an hour.
Are you even listening to what he's saying? Yes, I am. And I'm also filtering it to make it appear normal, because what he's saying, both of those things that he just mentioned, both the podcast host and JD Vance, both of what they said is not that weird to say. The actual statement of like grandparents taking care of your children is actually not a bad thing. It's actually a really good thing, is a perfectly normal thing to say. Postmenopausal females have a natural predisposition towards taking care of the born child is an insanely weird way to say it. On the other side, the podcast host being like, well, this is an unadvertised feature of the Indian race is also fucking insane. Why? Like, what? Why can't these guys just talk normal? And whenever he tries to talk normal, he keeps saying, mama, mama, my mama, my mama. And it's like, bro, that's also weird. Like, you're not, I want to shake him and be like, be fucking normal, dumbass. What's wrong with you? Yeah, I come from Nepal and it made sense, but every chatter was shitting on it, so I just didn't say anything in chat. No, it's not a weird thing to say in general. It's just how he's saying it is fucking weird. Do you understand what I mean? Like, he could just be like, listen, I'm a fucking white boy from Ohio. I had no idea what like Indian families were like. You know what I mean? I had no fucking idea that my like Indian mother-in-law was going to be so all over the child raising process. Like, it's awesome. It's great. It's wonderful. My wife's family cares a lot about being a part of my kid's life. Is the absolute worst way to say a relatively normal thing, because you just automatically hit it from like the weird scientific breeder fetish angle.
The clerkship, still not sleeping, work and family. My wife had this baby 7 weeks before she started the clerkship. It was still not sleeping any more than an hour and a half in a given interval. And her mom just took a sabbatical. She's a biology professor in California.
Yeah, describing your wife as having features like she's the new iPhone. It's just, you just hear what you want to hear in general. You have a clear disposition. Yeah, I do. I actually yell at fucking chatters all the time for being weird too. I don't know if you know this. There's plenty of fucking leftists in this community that are objectively not normal, and I yell at them all the time, and they almost always turn around and fucking double down on the weirdness and be like, I'm not normal. It's not normal. I'm not going to be normal. Shut the fuck up. You're being ableist or whatever the fuck. And then I ban them. So no, this is a equal opportunity smoke moment.
Just took a sabbatical for a year and came and lived with us and took care of our kid for a year.
Okay,
so it was just one of these things where it's like, this is what you do.
So a biology professor, PhD,
yes,
drops what they're doing,
yeah,
to immediately tend to the needs of a new mother with her infant.
Painfully economically inefficient. Right?
Can I just propose?
Like why didn't she just keep her job, give us part of the wages to pay somebody else to do it, right? Because that is the thing that the hyper liberalized economics wants you to do. The economic logic of always prioritizing paid wage labor over other forms of contributing to a society is to me, it's actually a consequence of a sort of fundamental liberalism that is ultimately going to unwind and collapse upon itself.
It has
I think it's the abandonment of a sort of Aristotelian.
This is such a white conversation. It's like when your chatters ask you why you live with your parents. I know. Like, I get what he's trying to say, okay? I get what he's trying to say. Once again, what he's trying to say is that capitalism causes people to operate in a way that is not beneficial. It makes people alienate from one another, not only just alienate from their labor, but alienate from one another, and it destroys the family unit. Everyone is constantly focused on productive labor. Everyone is constantly focused on like what their contribution to the economy would look like, and that creates this vacuum where women that want to have children, women that want to actually take care of their children, it causes them to move away from doing things like that. That's what that's what he is basically trying to fucking say. But he's doing a really bad job at saying those things. He doesn't believe it's capitalism. He won't say all that. All he does is uses liberalism as a scapegoat to point fingers at the left. Yeah, because he's also like a Silicon Valley tech loser. Of course he's not going to say it's capitalism.
Virtue politics for a hyper market-oriented way of thinking about what's good and what's desirable. If people are paying for it and it contributes to GDP and it makes the economic consumption numbers rise, then it's good. And if it doesn't, it's bad. I think that entire sort of, to me, that's sort of the root of our political problem.
In an interview from 2020, JD Vance agrees with the podcast host who says having grandmothers help raise children is the whole purpose of postmenopausal female. He also agrees with the host, grandparents helping raise children is a weird, unadvertised feature of marrying an Indian woman. That's awesome. I think there's a tendency for a lot of these guys who want to sound super smart to like hyper intellectualize certain subjects, and it comes across as like boring and dare I say sociopathic. it might come across as like super intelligent to like people who are desperate for some kind of pseudo intellectual drivel, right? But like when you're running for president, all of a sudden, no, don't say Ben Shapiro. Ben Shapiro has his moments like that, but I don't think Ben Shapiro would talk about fucking like postmenopausal females, okay? For all of his faults, Ben Shapiro at least like is still a better room reader than JD Vance is. Look, I think Ben Shapiro is a bad person, okay? But I think Ben Shapiro also legitimately loves his family. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm crazy for saying that. But I've never gotten the attitude. Like, I don't think I could see Ben Shapiro being like, my stupid son or daughter asked me about Pokemon and I told him to shut the fuck up for a second. Like, that's like a very specific type of person. I don't think Ben Shapiro would say that. Matt Walsh would say that, though. Yes, the old women thing is something Matt Walsh would say. Yes. Yes. You are abso-fucking-lutely right. Matt Walsh would 100% say some shit like that. Some weird ass shit like that. Yes. Yes.